Hello there! I would like to open with a Native American folktale about two wolves. One evening, an old man told his grandson about a struggle within people's hearts. He said, "My son, the struggle is between two wolves that exist within all of us, and it occurs every time we're about to take action. One wolf is anger, envy, sorrow, greed, self-pity, guilt, lies, and insult. The second wolf is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, generosity, and compassion." The grandson thinks for a moment and then asks, "In this struggle, which wolf will win?" The grandfather simply replies, "The one you feed." We need to consider what we feed ourselves, especially when it's not an equal playing field to begin with. The most powerful illustration of that is the negativity bias. According to this built-in bias, our mind treats positive and negative experiences distinctly. Naturally, we pay more attention to the negative. This bias toward the negative leads us to pay more attention to the negative things in our environment, making them seem much more important than they really are. Our brains are wired to give more attention to the negative things that trigger our survival mode. We can compare this sensitivity of our brain to Velcro for negative experiences and to Teflon for positive ones. The negative experiences are attached to us like Velcro, while the positive ones glide over us like a Teflon. We often cling to the black dot on a white paper, although it's small and there's so much white around it to focus on. It's very similar to when our boss would give us 9 compliments but mention one piece of negative criticism, and that's what would stay with us for the rest of the day. Or if we give a lecture to a group of people in which everyone was nodding and enjoying it, but one person had fallen asleep, not necessarily because of us, and would be miserable because of that. Negativity has a larger impact on our brain. We're more sensitive to negative stimuli in the environment and also process them longer. This human inclination to focus on the negative aspects trickles down to our consciousness and influences how we interpret our reality and the world around us. So even though the good and the positive exists and is even more common in our lives, it is far less visible. Consequently, we also take it for granted. Due to this inclination to inscribe attention to the negative into our brain more profoundly than the positive, we often automatically feed the wrong wolf. To experience more positive emotions, which are vital for our optimal functioning and growth, it's important to level the playing field. It can be done by roughing the Teflon just as much as softening the Velcro, meaning not only decreasing negativity, which is important in itself, such as by reframing our attitude and interpretation, journaling, physical activity that helps handle stress, venting, acceptance of hurtful feelings, forgiveness, but also increasing positivity, intentionally and constantly on a daily basis, and not saving it only for a special occasion. So what do we do to increase and nurture positive emotions? Firstly, before we can pass it on, it's important to start with ourselves. We teach who we are, so self-awareness is a necessary first step. Let's start by identifying our own personal energy boosters. Each of us has their own unique ingredients that, if we were to include in our daily plate, would increase our positive emotions. The mere dialogue with myself about the things that energize me is hugely significant. This process of clarification allows us to understand what really matters to us, what makes us come alive, and not only what shuts us down. So let's take a moment when I finish the instructions, pause the video, and create a list of your own energy boosters. What makes you feel good? What energizes you? Places, people, food, movies, books. Write them down. Let's try to get into detail. Great! If you've written at least 5 different things, that's wonderful. Surely there are plenty of other energy boosters in your life that bring you joy and pleasure. Just being reminded of them brings a smile to our faces. Such a pause is very relevant in education as well. An awareness of personal strengths is very significant in establishing a child's self-image, and it can greatly contribute to boosting their identity and healthy development. An awareness of personal resources increases children's optimism, self-confidence, and mental well-being. It also enables them to reach their goals and better cope with life's challenges. Asking students during the school day questions such as what energizes them and what they like to do allows them to share what energizes them with teachers and friends. Humor, and especially playfulness, has many meanings and advantages that are documented in professional literature as well as in various developmental theories. Humor decreases physical pain, relieves stress, assists in improving the immune system's functioning, increases our vitality, motivates us, and increases our sense of intimacy with the other. In this context, there's a lot we can learn from children. An interesting finding shows that by the age of 5, children laugh on average between 300 and 500 times a day. Later, the situation gets worse. Seriousness takes the place of laughter and playfulness. In adults, the average is about 15 laughs a day, and some will claim that that's their annual average. To smile and to have a wholehearted laugh is a great example of a significant energy booster that we can nurture daily. Laughter loosens the muscles and nerves, releases endorphins, and also influences our mood, as well as the mood of others around us. Many studies show the positive influence that laughter has on sick patients. For example, in one study, hospitals screened funny movies for patients, and the results showed a significant improvement in their mood and optimism, as well as an improvement in their physical symptoms. Many studies have shown that even an involuntary smile invokes positive feelings, which in turn allows us to create an upward spiral and to recognize positive signals in our surroundings. Such an involuntary smile can start with holding a pen between our teeth, imitating a smiling expression. We know that from childhood, people are more drawn and responsive to smiling babies who demonstrate positive emotions than angry ones. Let's have a little experiment. Try to smile a big smile and talk about something that really annoyed you today. Did you manage to do that? it's harder. And now try the other way around. A nice exercise that illustrates the power of emotional contagion, which works on both directions, positive emotions as well as negative ones, could be a smiling circle in the classroom or during a staff meeting. To actually pass a smile for one person to the next. The first person smiles and keeps doing it until it moves to the person sitting next to them, and on it goes until the smile has reached everyone. It can be an excellent way to start a class or to finish a day or a meeting. Try it! It's as powerful as it is simple. We can also incorporate humor in class through funny videos or jokes that are relevant to the learning material. And we can also direct the students and ourselves to look for the amusing aspect in anything that happens during the day, starting with daily situations in the class, at school, and at home, all the way to our mistakes and life's challenges. You'd be surprised by the extent to which the students would remember the material, because when we're having fun, we also learn better. And we can play too. When we play, we're in a flow. It's an experience that was comprehensively studied by Professor Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. It is essentially a state of losing one's self-awareness and becoming completely absorbed in an activity which is intrinsically rewarding. It has a unique combination of challenge and skill, and a unique expression of our strengths. This is why, for example, students devote so many hours and don't notice the time while playing video games. Along these lines, we can actually turn any subject or learning material into a game. Another strategy is savoring. We intuitively know, as well as from research, that pleasures are brief and short-term. We don't get the same level of pleasure from tasting the same ice cream for the third and fourth time. The reason for that is a phenomenon called hedonic adaptation, or put simply, we get used to it. This mechanism is even more prominent in today's world, the age of being there, done that, of high speed, quick exhaustion, and affluence, an age of multitasking and of doing a maximum number of things in minimal time. We barely know how to pause and to experience things in depth. We're also not fully present, and we miss a large part of the here and now. In this context, Professor Bryant and Professor Veroff focused on the scientific exploration of the importance of being present and paying attention. They explored the significance of savoring pleasure through our senses to consciously and deliberately notice and savor pleasurable experiences. They emphasized the significance of being involved and absorbed in the experiences we have with all of our senses and suggested different strategies. For example, involving the senses in learning through art, going out to nature as much as possible, or bringing it into the classroom. We can also help students break down a positive experience into details and delve into it. For example, in sharing weekend experiences in class or in preparing toward a positive and exciting experience, such as a field trip. Another strategy, just as important, is power poses. So far, we've primarily focused on strategies for boosting positive emotions from the inside out. But it is just as important to acknowledge our body's ability to produce positive emotions from the outside in. We feel it, for example, in movement, such as when we dance. Fascinating studies by Professor Amy Cuddy from Harvard University show that expanding the body expands the soul as well, and it allows us to be more present and to experience more positive emotions. Professor Cuddy and her colleagues found that our posture, The way in which we move in space not only shapes how we feel, but also how we think about ourselves. She asked if nonverbal expressions are so ingrained in us to the extent that we automatically raise our arms in V shape when we win, regardless of our cultural background, gender, or whether we've seen anyone else doing it, what would happen if we adopted wide and expanding poses when we feel weak and frustrated? Since we naturally expand our body when we feel strong, is it possible that we'd naturally feel stronger when expanding our body? Studies have indeed shown that people who sat upright not only found it easier to think more positively about themselves, but they also more firmly believed the qualities and strengths they mentioned about themselves. In a lab experiment, participants were asked to adopt either introverted or extroverted body language. It was found that after only 2 minutes, there were changes in their hormonal balance. Participants who adopted a positive body language exhibited an increase in testosterone and decrease in cortisol, and participants who adopted an introvert body language exhibited the reverse trend. Another experiment simulated a stressful situation of a job interview. It was found that the participants who were asked to embody confident physical gestures before the interview were considered more desirable by potential employers. Based on her and others' research, we can advise students, as well as ourselves, that an upward spiral of positive emotions might also begin not from its own sake, but actually through our presence and expanding our body precisely when it wants to avoid or to shut down. It works especially well before stressful situations such as exams. She recommended 2 postures. The first, the Wonder Woman pose, and the starfish pose. Try it at home. As you can see, there are many evidence-based ideas to apply positive emotions in your private life as well as in education. But it is crucially important that in whatever you decide to use out of all the ideas I've suggested here, try doing it wholeheartedly, with dedication and regularly.